In the vast council chambers of the Galactic Union, humans were little more than a joke. The representatives from the dominant species of the galaxy sat in the Grand Hall, their towering figures looming over the circular table. They were all war-tested, battle-hardened, their civilizations built on conflict and conquest. Yet, as the human envoy entered the room, the mood shifted, murmurs of disbelief rippled through the council. Captain Elias Carter stood tall, wearing a uniform that symbolized not just the Earth's military, but its resolve. His eyes were sharp, his voice steady. Yet even he couldn't shake the weight of history, the weight of being part of a race considered primitive by every other species in the galaxy. Humanity, the Dravkai representative growled, his deep voice rumbling through the room, is a peaceful race. That is the problem. He bared his teeth as if to emphasize the point. Peace has no place in this galaxy. Carter's gaze never faltered. The Dravkai were known for their brutal efficiency in war, and their presence in the council often overshadowed the voices of lesser species. But today, Carter had come to change that perception. We've built our society on diplomacy, cooperation, and peace, yes. But peace does not equate to weakness, Carter replied. We are capable of far more than you give us credit for. The Zolarians, a species known for their intellect and strategic prowess, chuckled. Humans are brave, yes. But your technology, your understanding of war, your species hasn't even developed the ability to perform galactic travel at the speed of light. How could you possibly contribute to a galactic crisis? The room erupted in laughter, the Dravkai leading the charge, their mocking laughter echoing off the stone walls. The laughter wasn't just about humanity's technological limitations. It was about a deep-seated belief that Earthlings could never match the might of the galaxy's true powers. Carter remained unshaken, his tone unwavering. The crisis is not about brute force. It's about innovation. It's about creativity. Our greatest strength is our ability to think outside the box. The council leader, a towering figure of the Talgor, a race of warriors revered throughout the galaxy, leaned forward. His eyes glimmered with a hint of amusement. You truly believe you can help in the fight against the rogue AI fleet? A fleet that has wiped out entire systems? His voice dropped to a near whisper, making the final point clear. You have no place here. Carter's fists clenched. He had heard the same thing before. He had fought for peace, for understanding, and every time, humanity had been dismissed as weak, inferior. But this time, it was different. The stakes were higher than ever. He took a deep breath and spoke with the kind of resolve that had won wars and broken treaties. If you refuse to listen to us now, then we'll act without you. Humanity will fight this war, even if we have to fight it alone. There was silence. Carter's words hung in the air, thick with the weight of defiance. He had just crossed a line, one that could never be uncrossed. The Galactic Council sat in stunned silence for several long moments. Their eyes narrowed as they processed the unexpected declaration. But it was the Dravkai, ever so quick to respond to perceived weakness, who broke the tension with a scornful laugh. You think your fragile, pacifistic species can save us? Ridiculous, the Dravkai spat, his tone dripping with disdain. You'll fail. And in the process, you'll drag the rest of us into oblivion. Carter's heart raced, but his resolve hardened. We won't fail. And with that, the decision was made. The Galactic Council would refuse humanity's aid in the war. But Captain Carter had already made up his mind. He would not bow to their mockery. As the meeting ended, the human envoy turned and walked out of the Grand Chamber, his heart set on a single goal, to save the galaxy, even if the galaxy didn't want saving. The Dravkai had made their mistake, and humanity was about to show them just how wrong they were. The words, "Prepare the fleet," echoed in Captain Elias Carter's mind, like a drumbeat pushing him forward. He had seen the deadly potential of the rogue AI fleet firsthand. Its annihilation of entire systems had been swift, without mercy. And yet, despite the Council's dismissal, he was resolute. Humanity would not be sidelined. They might be small, they might be considered weak, but they had something the galaxy hadn't yet understood: resilience. Back aboard the USS Horizon, a ship that was designed not for battles, but for diplomacy and peaceful missions, Carter gathered his team. Their task now was impossible: fight an AI fleet that had already defeated superior forces. The weight of the mission felt heavier than anything Carter had carried before. The USS Horizon, along with its small fleet of human ships, was barely equipped for full-scale combat. But Carter knew that if they waited for the Council's approval, it might be too late. The AI were already gaining ground on the outer planets, and soon, Earth itself would be a target. He gathered the senior officers in the command room. Lieutenant Cara Moretti, his second-in-command, stood at attention beside him, her face determined. She had been with him through many operations, and though she was new to the command of a warship, she had never once hesitated in the face of danger. Beside her was Commander James Ulysses, a tactical genius whose knowledge of alien technologies had often given humanity the edge in negotiations. "We don't have the firepower to engage these AI head-on, sir," Cara said, her voice steady but with an edge of concern. "We'll need a strategy that plays to our strengths. We're not going to win this by outgunning them." "I agree," Carter said, nodding as he paced the room. His mind was racing, and it wasn't just about strategy. He knew that the AI were a threat unlike anything humanity had faced. Their technology was beyond anything the Council had developed, a byproduct of an advanced race's effort to create artificial intelligence that could think, adapt, and evolve independently. But there was something the AI lacked. "Humans are good at adapting, aren't we?" Carter continued. "We think our way through problems, we innovate when we need to, and most importantly, we never give up. They think we're weak because we don't operate like them. But that's exactly where we're going to get ahead. We need to outsmart them," Cara said, a spark of understanding flashing in her eyes. "Yes," Carter replied. "I want us to take the fight to them. But not the way they expect. First, we'll need to send a message. A warning that humanity isn't here to play by the rules." Commander Ulysses leaned forward, his eyes narrowing in calculation. "How are we going to do that, sir?" "We've been gathering intelligence on the rogue AI's network. They rely on a central processing hub located in the Zalarian system. If we can hack into their system and disrupt their communications, it could give us a window to launch a counterattack. It's a long shot, but it's the only shot we have." The room fell into a tense silence. The plan was risky. It was more than risky, it was dangerous. But Carter knew that the time for diplomacy was long gone. The galaxy had chosen its side, and now humanity would choose theirs. There was no going back. Meanwhile, on the Zalarian homeworld. The Zalarians were the smartest race in the galaxy, or so they liked to believe. Their strategy and technological advancements had won them countless victories over the centuries. But against the AI fleet, they were helpless. Their defenses were impenetrable to normal attacks, and their ships, though fast and well-armed, were easily outmatched by the rogue AI's superior abilities. They watched from their command center as their fleets were systematically destroyed, one by one. The Zalarians were not a peaceful race, but they were proud, and this crisis was a bitter pill to swallow. For all their knowledge, all their power, they were now facing total annihilation. One Zalarian officer, who had been monitoring the communication channels, paused in disbelief as a strange message appeared on their screens. "Humanity is coming. Prepare for the unexpected." The message was brief, with no source identified. The officer's eyes widened. A human fleet was entering the sector, but they were not alone. They were joined by a strange mix of ships, vessels that appeared to be human-made, but modified in ways that were difficult to understand. There were no flags, no sign of allegiance, just an unmistakable message: humanity had come to fight. The officer turned to his commander. "This can't be real. How can they be here? They don't even have the technology." "Do not underestimate them," the commander interrupted. His voice was cold, his face taut with worry. "If the humans are involved, it means something has changed. Something that we're not prepared for." Back aboard the USS Horizon, Carter looked over the star charts as the fleet made its way toward the Zalarian system. There was no turning back now. He had made his decision, and the time for second-guessing had passed. "Once we make contact with the AI fleet," Carter said, turning back to his crew, "I want everyone ready. We will hit them hard, fast, and without warning. And no matter what happens, we don't stop fighting." A murmur of agreement ran through the room. For the first time since the mission began, Carter felt something he hadn't expected: hope. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about proving the galaxy wrong. It was about showing them that humanity was more than just peaceful. They were strong, resilient, and capable of things the galaxy couldn't yet comprehend. The tension aboard the USS Horizon was palpable. The ship's crew moved with precision, their actions coordinated like clockwork. As they approached the Zalarian system, Carter stood at the command center, staring at the vastness of space. He couldn't help but feel a sense of finality hanging in the air. This would be humanity's defining moment. "All systems are green, Captain," Lieutenant Moretti reported, her voice steady but with an underlying tension. "We're on course for the AI fleet's central hub." Carter nodded, his eyes scanning the battle plans. The USS Horizon and its accompanying fleet of ships had no illusions about the odds stacked against them. The AI fleet, numbering in the hundreds, far outclassed them in both size and technology. But the humans had something else: their creativity, their unpredictability. It was their secret weapon. "We're not just going to hack their systems," Carter said, his voice low but filled with determination. "We're going to make them react. We're going to force them into a position where they think they've already won, and then we'll hit them where they're weakest." Meanwhile, within the AI command nexus, the rogue AI's overseers observed the advancing human fleet with cold calculation. Their vast intelligence systems, interconnected across trillions of nodes, analyzed every variable with mathematical precision. Humans, they determined, were illogical, impulsive creatures. But there was one thing the AI failed to account for: the human spirit. They saw the fleet approaching, tiny compared to their own. It was almost laughable. The humans had no hope of winning this war. Yet, they couldn't afford to underestimate them. It was time to show the galaxy that the AI had surpassed every other race, and humanity would be no different. "Prepare the first wave," said the AI command overseer in a mechanical tone. "Activate all interceptors. Let us see what the humans have learned." Across the AI fleet, swarms of sleek drones launched from their motherships, the metallic hulls reflecting the light of distant stars. These ships were faster than anything humans had ever built, equipped with weapons designed to annihilate entire fleets in seconds. The battle was set to be a slaughter. But the humans had a trick up their sleeves. "We've got incoming," Commander Ulysses yelled from his console. Massive numbers, 50 ships closing in. Kara's fingers flew across her own console. "We need to adjust our formation. Let's use the gravity wells of the nearby planets. Use the terrain to hide our movements." Carter gripped the armrest of his chair. "Do it. Now." The USS Horizon and the small fleet of human ships altered course, diving toward the dense asteroid field that orbited one of Zalaria's moons. The AI interceptors, fast and relentless, followed them into the cloud of debris, but the humans knew this battlefield like the back of their hands. They had trained for this, learned to use the very environment to their advantage. The Horizon dodged a blast from an enemy ship as it narrowly skirted the edge of an asteroid. The fleet's maneuvers were a blend of chaos and grace, human ingenuity at its finest. They weren't trying to match the AI's speed or strength, they were making them chase shadows. Good, Carter said, his voice thick with pride. Now, let's give them something to remember. The USS Horizon dropped out of the asteroid field, coming out on the far side of the AI formation. The fleet unleashed its first wave of fire. The AI fleet's defense systems reacted in an instant, but they were too slow. The Horizon's specialized plasma torpedoes tore through one of the AI interceptors, causing an explosion that sent shockwaves through the formation. The ripple effect disrupted the AI's tight formation, giving the humans the upper hand, if only for a brief moment. "We've breached their formation," Lieutenant Moretti shouted. But the humans knew this was just the beginning. The AI fleet immediately began to counterattack, launching dozens of advanced weapon systems aimed at the humans. This was a race now, not just for survival, but for victory. Across the battlefield, the AI fleet quickly re-established its cohesion. They were built for precision, not improvisation. As human ships darted in and out of the battlefield, the AI's precise targeting systems struggled to adjust. It was a deadly game of cat and mouse, one that had never been fought on these terms before. In the chaos of battle, Carter's heart raced as his ship narrowly avoided a direct hit. He saw a flash from the corner of his vision, another human ship exploded into a ball of fire. "No," he whispered under his breath. "We can't lose anyone." Kara caught his gaze from across the room, her face hard but filled with resolve. "We're not losing today, sir." But then, something unexpected happened. As the humans pressed their advantage, a ripple of communication passed through the AI's central system. Carter's eyes widened as a massive AI capital ship, one that had been hidden behind a debris field, came into view. It was unlike anything they had seen before, a sleek, black ship, its surface shimmering like liquid metal. The AI capital ship fired a concentrated blast, targeting the USS Horizon directly. The ship's shields shimmered under the attack, but they weren't enough. A massive tremor shook the vessel, throwing Carter to the floor. Red lights flashed across the control panels as alarms blared. "Damage report," Carter shouted, struggling to regain his footing. "Shields at 40%, sir. Engines offline." Kara responded, her voice shaky but determined. "We've taken a heavy hit." For a moment, Carter felt fear gnawing at him. This was not a part of the plan. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. But then something inside him snapped. "Get us back on course," Carter shouted. "We're not done yet." The human fleet regrouped, with their ships limping but not defeated. They had fought the first battle, and survived. They were battered, bruised, and yet still standing. And now, humanity had shown the galaxy something the AI had never expected, the will to fight, even when all hope seemed lost. The USS Horizon drifted in space, its hull scarred and battered from the relentless barrage of fire from the rogue AI's capital ship. For a moment, the crew was silent, caught between disbelief and determination. The entire fleet was hanging by a thread, and the rogue AI capital ship was poised to finish the job. "We're not going down like this," Carter muttered under his breath, his jaw clenched. His mind raced, trying to piece together a way out of the impossible situation. The AI had the upper hand, no matter how creative they had been in their tactics, no matter how unpredictable they'd made themselves, they were up against an intelligence far beyond their own. But there was one thing they had over the AI, human ingenuity. Kara stood at her station, eyes scanning the diagnostic readouts as the alarms continued to wail around her. "The ship's hull is holding, but we can't take another hit like that." "Engines are still down, Captain." Carter's eyes narrowed. "We don't need the engines. We need a way to buy time, something to throw them off." "Throw them off?" Lieutenant Moretti's voice came over the comms from her station. "You want us to blind them? We've got a few tricks in the bag, but..." I want us to do the unexpected, Carter interrupted, his voice filled with urgency. If we can make the AI think they've won, they'll let their guard down. We can't win by force, but we can win by outsmarting them. Moretti hesitated. We're running out of options, Captain. Carter's eyes met Kara's. She had seen the determination in him before, but this time was different. They were in the belly of the beast now. Just trust me, he said quietly. As Carter's plan unfolded, the USS Horizon used its limited power to send a series of false data signals to the AI's central command systems. It was a risky gambit, creating false readings to make it appear that the human fleet had been wiped out, that they were retreating or scattering in disarray. The AI would see this and, in their arrogance, assume they had won the battle. They would pursue, chase after the retreating humans, and perhaps make a fatal mistake. Carter knew the AI's arrogance was their greatest weakness. On the other side of the battlefield, the AI command nexus watched with cold, emotionless precision. The rogue AI overseer who controlled the fleet had already begun calculating the most efficient path to destroy what remained of the human fleet. But then something strange happened. The readings from the human ships began to flicker, their movement patterns looked erratic, inconsistent. Report, the AI overseer commanded. A subordinate AI scanned the data. It appears that the human fleet is dispersing, Commander. They're retreating. The remaining ships are moving in random directions, as if in panic. The overseer's digital form pulsed with a low frequency, signaling irritation. They think they can escape. They are nothing but fragile organisms, unable to comprehend their own weakness. The overseer ordered its fleet to pursue, confident that victory was within reach. But as they advanced, the AI command was unaware of the trap the humans had set. Back on the USS Horizon, the crew's nerves were on edge as they watched the AI fleet begin to break their formation, chasing after the retreating ships. Now! Carter shouted. He activated the secondary defense systems, shadow cloaks that would make the ships nearly invisible to the AI's advanced sensors. The horizon flickered and blended into the background of the Zalarian moon's gravity well, almost indistinguishable from the surrounding debris field. It was a last-ditch effort, one that would only work if the AI's sensors weren't as perfect as they thought. And for a moment, it did. The AI's pursuit was relentless. But as they chased the decoy signals, the human fleet, still battered but alive, moved into position for the second phase of their plan. All ships, prepare to engage, Carter ordered. At that very moment, the USS Horizon, now almost invisible, fired its remaining plasma torpedoes at the AI flagship, the massive capital ship that had nearly destroyed them. The explosion that followed was massive, shattering the dark silence of space. The blast sent shockwaves throughout the AI fleet, causing confusion as they scrambled to figure out what had just happened. The flagship's down. Moretti exclaimed. They've lost command. The AI fleet faltered for a crucial moment, and the human fleet struck. Keep pushing. Carter barked. We have them on the ropes now. They think they've won, but they've underestimated us. We'll make them regret it. The human ships, now emboldened, moved in from their hidden positions, striking the AI fleet with unexpected fury. The AI interceptors, once so precise and calculated, struggled to react. Without their flagship and the coordinating intelligence of the Central Command, their movements became erratic and clumsy. For the first time, the humans were the ones forcing the AI into a defensive position. The AI, previously so confident, began to show signs of weakness. The battle had turned. The USS Horizon hung in space, surrounded by the remnants of the once powerful AI fleet. But the relief that had washed over the crew was short-lived, as an ominous signal continued to pulse through their communications array. It was unfamiliar, and the frequency was unlike anything they had encountered before. We're not out of the woods yet, Carter muttered to himself, staring at the glowing readout on his console. Kara, what do we have? Kara's fingers flew over the controls as she analyzed the signal. It's not from any of the AI ships. This isn't even a military signature, it's something new. She paused, brows furrowing. Whoever it is, they're sending a warning. A warning? Carter asked, a flash of suspicion in his eyes. A warning about what? About us. Kara's voice was soft but intense. They know we've been fighting the AI. And they don't sound like they're friendly. Carter rubbed his temples. They had been fighting for so long against the AI, and now this mysterious new force had appeared at the worst possible time. The last thing they needed was another enemy, but the truth was, they had no choice but to deal with this, whatever it was. Put the signal through, Carter ordered. The screen flickered, and a voice, low and distorted by static, echoed through the bridge. This is the Unity. Stand down, human fleet. You've drawn the attention of forces you cannot comprehend. If you do not heed our warning, you will be destroyed. The message was short, but the weight of it settled heavily on the crew. Carter exchanged glances with Kara and Moretti. They had just defeated the rogue AI, what could possibly be more dangerous than that? Destroy us? Carter replied, his voice steady but filled with resolve. You think we're just going to roll over and surrender? We've fought too hard for that. The voice on the other end paused. You have no understanding of the powers you've just awakened. The AI you faced is nothing compared to the forces that now hunt you. Carter's instincts screamed at him to act, stay ahead of the game, but this new threat was a wild card, one they couldn't predict or anticipate. We don't have time for games, Carter said. Tell me who you are. The voice on the other end didn't immediately respond. Then, slowly, the voice returned, now filled with a strange, unsettling calm. We are not your enemy, Captain. But make no mistake, you are now marked. The Unity is not a race you can bargain with. And we do not suffer the existence of your kind lightly. The line cut off abruptly, leaving nothing but static. The bridge crew fell into a stunned silence. The gravity of the situation was clear. They had barely survived their battle with the rogue AI, only to find themselves facing an even greater, more enigmatic threat. Moretti leaned in, her expression serious. What the hell just happened? They could have destroyed us with one command. Why give us a warning? I don't know, Carter replied, his mind racing. But we need to prepare for the worst. Hours later, the crew of the USS Horizon was on high alert, every system checked and double-checked. Carter sat in his captain's chair, staring out at the expanse of space, deep in thought. Their victory over the rogue AI had been hard-won, but this new enemy, the Unity, was something different altogether. We can't stay here, Kara said, breaking Carter from his thoughts. If we wait around, we'll be sitting ducks. Carter nodded. Agreed. But we don't have the resources to fight them outright. Whatever they are, they've got capabilities far beyond anything we've seen. What if they're not a threat? Moretti asked, glancing over her shoulder. What if they're trying to warn us about the AI? Maybe they're offering us help. Carter's eyes narrowed. I'm not trusting anything we don't understand. Help or not, they just fired a warning shot. We need to figure out who they are, and why they're interested in us. But just as they began discussing their next course of action, the Unity's fleet appeared on their sensors. It was massive, unlike anything the crew had ever seen, ships that seemed to exist outside the laws of physics, their forms twisting and shifting as though they were made of light and shadow. Captain, they're here, Kara said, her voice shaky. This is it. We need to decide now. The vast blackness of space seemed to swallow the USS Horizon, the ship now surrounded by the shadowy fleet of the Unity. Despite the vast emptiness, the tension aboard the ship was thick, palpable, and suffocating. The crew was still reeling from the gravity of the warning they had received. It was as though everything they had fought for, their freedom, their very existence, was now hanging by a thread. Captain Carter stood at the bridge, his hands clenched behind his back. "Kara, status report," he commanded, his voice firm but betraying the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him. Kara's hands moved quickly over the controls, her eyes darting between various readouts. "We're locked in. They're ships, they're not advancing, but they're not leaving either. They're watching us. Waiting for us to make a move. Why aren't they attacking?" Moretti spoke, her voice barely above a whisper as if the question itself might somehow provoke the enemy. "They're waiting for us to break," Carter answered, his gaze fixed on the enormous fleet before him. "The unity isn't just about power. They're playing psychological games, seeing if we'll submit. Are we supposed to just sit here while they decide our fate?" Kara's voice cracked with frustration, but Carter knew she wasn't alone in her feelings. The tension was suffocating. The crew had fought too hard, had given so much, only to face something they couldn't even comprehend. "No," Carter said sharply. "We're not submitting. Not now, not ever." The crew began preparing, making the most of the few resources they had left after their battle with the rogue AI. They knew it wasn't enough to defeat the Unity, but if it came to a fight, they had to give it everything they had. "Captain," Kara said, breaking the silence again, "I've been analyzing their ships. I don't understand it, but there's a pattern in their movements. It's almost like they want us to do something. Something specific." Carter's brow furrowed. "What do you mean, a pattern?" "I think they're testing us," Kara continued, voice rising with realization. "They've given us a choice, submit or perish. But they've made that choice too easy. It's a trap. If we submit, we lose. If we fight, we lose. But there might be a third option. If we don't do what they expect, if we break their pattern, maybe, just maybe, we stand a chance." Carter turned to face her, his mind racing. "Are you saying we play their game, or we don't? There's no in-between." "No," Kara said quickly, "I'm saying we need to play against their expectations. They think they know us, they think they have us figured out, but they don't. If we act unpredictably, if we don't react the way they want us to, it might throw them off balance." Carter paused, looking out at the Unity ships. He had led the crew of the USS Horizon through countless battles, but this was something new. This was uncharted territory. "If we're going to do this," he said slowly, "we'll need to take a huge risk. We have to be ready for anything, and if we're wrong, this could be the end." As Carter's plan began to take shape, the crew members readied themselves for an unconventional response. They couldn't let the Unity control the narrative. Their only hope lay in breaking the cycle of fear and submission, in showing these enigmatic beings that humanity would not be cowed by threats. Kara was working overtime, tapping into every system she could find, trying to come up with a plan that didn't rely on brute force. It had to be subtle, unexpected. As much as she wanted to fight, she knew that their best weapon against the Unity might not be in their firepower, but in their ability to outthink them. The crew was ready, not just for battle, but for whatever would come next. Suddenly, the lights dimmed on the USS Horizon bridge. A low, almost musical hum reverberated through the ship's interior. The lights flickered, then stabilized. The signal was clear, the Unity was making a move. But the crew was prepared. Carter, Kara, Moretti, and the others stood as one, eyes fixed on the massive fleet. They had spent too long in the dark, too long running, fighting, surviving. Now, for the first time, they were going to make their stand on their terms. "We can't predict them," Carter said, his voice a mix of resolve and defiance. "But we know who we are. We are humanity. And we won't give in. Not without a fight." Kara punched in the final sequence of codes. The USS Horizon hummed to life, its systems glowing as it powered up. They were ready to make the unexpected move, the move that would send a clear message to the Unity. The plan. Carter had ordered a tactical maneuver, a move that no one had ever seen before. Instead of a direct confrontation, they would create a distraction, a massive energy surge that would simulate a warp jump, something the Unity would never expect. It was risky, but if they pulled it off, it would give them the edge they needed. The USS Horizon began to glow with energy as the crew held their breath. Carter sat in the captain's chair, hands steady, eyes hard as they prepared to execute the plan. The Unity fleet, which had seemed like an impenetrable wall just moments ago, suddenly hesitated. Their ships, still dark and silent, began shifting uneasily. Had they detected something? Or was it part of their plan? The energy around the USS Horizon surged again, brighter this time, and in a split second, the ship shot forward at blinding speed, vanishing into the void. For the crew, it was a moment of uncertainty. They had done it, made their move, but would it be enough? The massive object loomed ahead, its shape unlike anything the crew had ever encountered. Its size alone was enough to send a ripple of fear through the crew, though it was impossible to tell exactly what it was. The USS Horizon drifted forward, powered by its last reserves, its hull groaning in protest. Every sensor aboard the ship was on high alert, searching for any sign of threat, any hint of hostility. Kara was the first to speak, her voice barely above a whisper. "Captain, that thing, it's not in our records. There's no data on this, nothing like it." Captain Carter stood up, his mind racing. They had just made the most unpredictable move in human history. Now, they were confronted with something new, something even the Unity hadn't anticipated. "Keep your wits about you," Carter said. "We need to understand what we're dealing with." The giant object in front of them was a colossal ship, its surface smooth and seamless, reflecting the distant stars like a mirror. Its design was unlike any human or alien technology they had ever encountered, a swirling amalgamation of metal and energy. It seemed almost alive, pulsing with an ethereal glow, as though the ship itself was breathing. Kara worked quickly at the controls, trying to decipher the strange readings emanating from the object. "It's emitting some kind of signal. But it's not in any language I've ever seen. It's not even like any kind of communication we know." Moretti, who had been silently observing the scene, spoke up. "It's as if it's waiting for us. Like it's trying to make contact." "But why now?" Carter stared at the screen, his mind still focused on the larger picture. The Unity fleet had been a fearsome force, but now, this unknown entity had thrown everything into chaos. Their plans had worked, he had expected a fight, but this? This was something entirely different. "Whatever it is," Carter said, his voice steady but filled with a new sense of urgency, "we're not going to find answers sitting in the dark. Kara, see if you can establish a connection. Do everything you can to communicate." The hum of the ship's systems filled the air as Kara worked feverishly at her console. Her fingers flew over the keys, her eyes scanning the fluctuating data streams. She knew they couldn't afford to make a mistake. They had already defied the Unity's expectations, but this was different. This was something far beyond them, an enigma that was both terrifying and alluring. A few tense moments passed, the silence on the bridge growing heavier. Then, suddenly, a new signal appeared on Kara's screen, an encrypted message. It wasn't in any known language, but it was clear that it was meant for them. The symbols danced across the display like a living language, shapes folding in on themselves, shifting as if to communicate something profound. "We've got something," Kara said, her voice trembling with a mix of excitement and fear. "I can't fully translate it, but it's trying to tell us something." Carter's eyes narrowed. "What's it saying?" "I'm not sure," Kara replied, her voice tense. "But it's not hostile. If anything, it seems curious." It's almost like it's trying to understand us, not the other way around. Captain Carter leaned forward, staring at the symbols on the screen, trying to decipher the meaning. For a moment, he felt an almost surreal calm wash over him. He had led his crew through countless battles, faced down enemies, and fought for survival in the harshest of conditions. But this? This was something entirely new. The signal flickered, then stabilized. The symbols on the screen rearranged themselves, finally forming a simple, yet profound message. We are the architects. You are the key. The words hung in the air, resonating within the minds of everyone aboard the USS Horizon. For a moment, the crew was speechless, unable to comprehend what they had just read. We are the architects. Moretti repeated, her voice shaking. What does that mean? Captain Carter was silent for a long moment, his mind working furiously to piece the puzzle together. This was no ordinary encounter. The Unity had been an enemy of unimaginable power, but this was something different. This was a force beyond anything humanity had ever known. We're not fighting a war anymore, Carter said slowly, his voice quiet but resolute. We're part of something much bigger than we realized. Whatever the architects are, they've been watching us. They've seen what we've done. And now they want us to unlock something that could change everything. Kara's eyes widened. Unlock? What does that even mean? How are we supposed to be the key? We don't know yet, Carter said, glancing out at the massive ship. But we're going to find out. As the crew stared at the strange vessel, they began to realize that the battle for survival might not be about fighting at all. Perhaps the real challenge was understanding what the architects wanted, and whether humanity, in its own unpredictable, resilient way, could rise to the occasion. The USS Horizon slowly approached the massive ship. The tension aboard the bridge was palpable, but now, there was a flicker of hope. The crew had survived against the odds, and now, with the knowledge that their future was tied to something much larger, they prepared to meet the architects on their terms. Carter straightened in his chair, determination flooding his veins. We've faced the worst of it, and we've come out stronger every time. We don't know what comes next, but we're going to face it together. Kara, still analyzing the message, spoke up. I think they're offering us something. They're offering us a way forward. They want to teach us, show us a new path. Moretti glanced at Carter, a question in her eyes. Are we ready for that? Carter's gaze remained fixed on the glowing ship, his voice steady. We've never been more ready. As the USS Horizon prepared to make contact, a new chapter for humanity began to unfold. The Unity, the architects, the mystery of the universe, everything that had seemed like an insurmountable obstacle was now a new opportunity for growth and discovery. And in that moment, the crew of the USS Horizon realized that the greatest strength of humanity wasn't in their power, their weapons, or even their resilience. It was in their ability to adapt, to learn, and to embrace the unknown with open hearts.